Hey, so tonight we're going to talk about something that's haunted historians and dreamers for centuries. The final hours of Pompeii. Not the version in textbooks with dates and statistics, but what it would actually feel like to live through the most famous volcanic disaster in human history. If you're enjoying these sleepy history journeys, I'd love a like or subscribe, ... But only if these stories genuinely help you drift off. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world, possibly while wrapped in blankets, letting history carry you toward sleep. Find your cozy spot, ... Take a slow breath and let's drift back to August 24th. 79 AD. You're about to experience the last day of an ancient world. You wake before dawn in your modest home on the Via della Bandanza, and something feels ... different. The air carries a strange metallic taste, like copper coins left too long in the sun. Your wooden shutters creak as you push them open, and the familiar sounds of Pompeii stirring to life drift through the narrow street below. But the birds are silent. You step onto your small balcony, bare feet touching cool terracotta, tiles still damp with morning dew. Mount Vesuvius looms in the distance, its peak shrouded in what looks like ordinary morning mist. You've lived in its shadow your entire life. 37 years of watching that mountain change with the seasons, never imagining it could change everything. The smell hits you first, sulfur, faint but persistent, like eggs left too long. The sun. You wrinkle your nose and pull your linen tunic closer around your shoulder. The August heat hasn't yet settled over the city, but there's a heaviness in the air that makes your skin feel sticky, uncomfortable. Down in the street, old Marcus is already setting up his bread stall, but his movements seem hurried, nervous. His usual morning song is absent, replaced by muttered prayers to Vulcan, the god of fire and forge. You can hear the anxiety in his voice, even from your window above. A dog barks once, then falls silent. Then another, then nothing. You dress slowly, your hands trembling slightly as you tie your belt. The leather feels rough against your palms, and you notice your fingers are already slightly damp with perspiration, though the morning is still cool. Something deep in your chest, some ancient instinct inherited from countless generations, whispers that today is not like other days. The water in your washing basin is warm, too warm for morning water that sat overnight. You splash it on your face anyway, and it carries that same metallic taste, as if the very earth beneath Pompeii is sweating minerals into everything you touch, everything you taste. You walk to your small kitchen, where yesterday's bread sits on a wooden shelf. As you reach for it, you notice your hands are shaking slightly. The bread feels different in your palms, drier than usual, as if the moisture has been drawn from it overnight. When you tear off a piece, the crust crumbles more than it should, leaving gritty residue on your fingers. Outside, you hear the sound of cartwheels on stone, but they move faster than usual. The rhythm is urgent, almost frantic. You peer through your shutters and see Gaius, the potter, hurrying past with his donkey cart loaded higher than normal. His face is pale, and he keeps glancing toward the mountain. The morning light itself seems strange. ... Not quite the golden glow you're used to, but something hazier, filtered. It's as if the sun is shining through a thin veil, casting everything in a slightly muted tone. The shadows on your walls appear softer, less defined, and when you hold your hand up to the window, your fingers seem to blur at the edges. You decide to venture outside, drawn by a need to understand what's happening. The moment you step into the street, the sensation intensifies. The air feels thicker here, almost chewy, and each breath requires slightly more effort than usual. It's not quite suffocating, but it's noticeable. The cobblestones beneath your sandals feel warm, warmer than they should be at this early hour. You kneel and press your palm against the stone, and yes, there's definitely heat radiating upward. It's subtle, but unmistakable, as if the very street is developing a fever dot as you walk toward the forum. You pass other early risers, and you notice they're all moving with the same nervous energy. Conversations are hushed, punctuated by frequent glances toward Vesuvius. A woman carrying water jugs stops to wipe sweat from her brow, though the morning is still relatively cool. When she notices you watching, she shakes her head and mutters something about the gods being restless. The fountain in the small square near your home is behaving strangely. The water, usually crystal clear and refreshingly cold, appears slightly cloudy today. When you cup your hands and bring it to your lips, it tastes ... different. Not bad, exactly, but mineral heavy, with that same metallic undertone that's been haunting everything since you woke. A child runs past, crying for his mother, and you notice something that makes your stomach tighten. The usual morning chorus of birds that typically fills the air with cheerful chatter is completely absent. No sparrows chirping from the rooftops, no pigeons cooing in the eaves. Even the ravens that usually scavenge near the market stalls are nowhere to be seen. It's then that you realize the dogs aren't just quiet, they're gone. The street dogs that normally roam in lazy packs, begging for scraps and getting underfoot, have simply vanished. Even the cats that usually slink through the shadows, hunting mice and avoiding human contact, are absent. It's as if every creature with instincts sharper than human reason has already fled by mid-morning. You're walking through the forum, and the unease has spread like ripples in a disturbed pond. The marble columns that usually gleam, white in the Mediterranean sun, seem dulled, covered in a fine layer of ash that wasn't there yesterday. You run your finger along a pillar, and the dust comes away grey and gritty, leaving a strange, tingling sensation on your skin. The merchants in the market speak in hushed tones, their usual boisterous haggling replaced by nervous glances toward the mountain. A woman selling olives keeps wiping her hands on her stola, though they don't appear dirty. Her movements are repetitive, compulsive, like she's trying to wipe away something invisible. You buy bread from Marcus, and his hands shake as he counts your coins. The bronze feels unusually warm in your palm, as if it's been sitting near a fire. The mountain groans, he whispers, not meeting your eyes. My grandfather told stories, but I never believed them. The bread tastes different to ... There's that metallic flavor again, subtle but persistent. You chew slowly, and even your saliva seems thicker, coating your tongue with an unfamiliar bitterness. You decide to visit the public baths, seeking the comfort of routine and perhaps some answers from other citizens. The bathhouse, usually a place of relaxation and social gathering, feels different today. The attendants move with unusual urgency, and the conversations are subdued, punctuated by nervous laughter that doesn't quite ring true. The water in the caldarium is scalding, far hotter than usual. The attendant, a Greek slave named Alexios, shakes his head when you ask about it. The fires burn themselves. He says quietly, we add no extra wood, but the heat grows stronger. His eyes are wide with something between wonder and fear. Even the tepidarium, normally pleasantly warm, feels uncomfortably hot today. The marble benches that should be cool to the touch are warm, almost burning against your skin. You notice other bathers leaving earlier than usual, their faces flushed not just from heat but from anxiety. As you soak in the warm water, you become aware of a subtle vibration. At first, you think it might be your imagination, but no, there's definitely a tremor running through the building. It's not violent, just a gentle, rhythmic pulsing, like a massive heartbeat deep underground. The water in the pool ripples slightly with each pulse. Other bathers have noticed it too. Conversations stop as people pause to feel the tremors, their faces growing pale. An elderly senator named Lucius, a regular at the baths, stands abruptly and announces he's returning home to check on his family. Others quickly follow his lead. You leave the baths feeling more unsettled than when you arrived. The streets outside seem different now, charged with an energy you can't quite define. The air shimmers slightly in the distance, creating heat mirages, even though the sun isn't particularly strong. Walking through the residential district, you notice that many homes have their shutters closed despite the early hour. Those that are open reveal families gathered in doorways, speaking in low, urgent voices. Children who would normally be playing in the streets are nowhere to be seen, kept inside by parents who sense danger even if they can't name. The temperature continues to rise, but not in the usual way of summer mornings. This heat seems to come from below, seeping up through the stone streets and into the soles of your sandals. You shift your weight from foot to foot, but there's no relief. The very ground of Pompeii is warming like a giant oven. You encounter your neighbor, Gaius, loading his cart with unusual haste. His wife and children are helping, their faces grim with determination. We're visiting my brother in Nola, he explains, but his eyes tell a different story. They're fleeing, though he won't say the word aloud. The mountain, ... You begin, but he cuts you off with a sharp shake of his head. My grandfather lived through the earthquake 17 years ago, he says quietly, He told me to watch for the signs, the animals leaving, the water tasting strange, the ground growing warm. He glances toward Vesuvius. All the signs are here. As his cart disappears down the street, you realize you're not the only one who's noticed the changes. The question is, what do you do with that knowledge? You return home to find your own dwelling, feeling different. The rooms seem smaller, stuffier, despite the windows being open. The air inside carries that same metallic taste, and you notice a fine layer of dust settling on your furniture, even though you cleaned yesterday. Your oil lamps flicker more than usual, their flames dancing in air currents you can't feel. The shadows they cast seem to shift and waver, creating an unsettling atmosphere of constant, subtle movement. Even your reflection in the polished bronze mirror appears somehow different. Your face looks drawn, your eyes wider than normal. It's just past noon when the first tremor hits. You're in your home, trying to eat a simple meal of cheese and figs, when the floor beneath your feet shudders. Not violently, just a gentle rolling motion, like being on a boat in calm seas. Your oil lamp flickers, casting dancing shadows on the painted walls of your modest dining room. The figs taste strange, sweeter than usual, as if the very air is changing their flavor. You set them aside and walk to your window, pressing your palms against the wooden frame. The wood feels warm, almost alive, pulsing with some deep rhythm you can't quite identify. Then you see it, a column of darkness rising from Vesuvius, straight up into the blue sky like a massive tree trunk. But this tree is made of ash and stone and fire, and it's growing taller with each breath you take. The sight is so impossible, so beautiful and terrible, that you can only stand and stare. The sound comes next, not the explosive roar you might expect, but a deep, continuous rumble that you feel in your bones more than hear with your ears. It's the sound of the earth itself groaning, of stone being born in fire and hurled toward the heavens. People begin to emerge from their homes, pointing and shouting, but their voices seem muffled, as if the very air is becoming thicker. A woman across the street falls to her knees, praying to Jupiter, her words lost in the growing rumble from the mountain. You touch your throat, and swallowing has become difficult. There's a scratchiness there, a dryness that water doesn't seem to help. When you cough, you taste ash, ... fine, powdery, with that same metallic bitterness that's been haunting the morning. The column of ash is spreading now, mushrooming out at the top like some impossible umbrella. The sun, which was bright and clear just moments ago, begins to dim as the shadow of Vesuvius's fury spreads across the sky. The light takes on a strange quality, orange and grey, as if you're seeing the world through colored glass. Your neighbor Gaius appears at his door, his face pale with fear. Should we leave? He calls to you, but his voice sounds distant, muffled by the thickening air. You want to answer, but your throat feels coated with dust, and speaking requires effort you didn't expect. The rumbling grows stronger, and you feel it in your chest now, a vibration that seems to resonate with your heartbeat. The very walls of your home seem to pulse gently, and dust begins to fall from the ceiling beams like a fine grey snow. Dot, you step outside, and the change in the air is immediately apparent. What was merely thick before is now almost choking. Each breath brings more of that fine ash into your lungs, making you cough in short, sharp spasms. Your eyes begin to water, not from emotion, but from the irritation of countless tiny particles. The column above Vesuvius has grown enormous, towering into the sky like a pillar holding up the heavens. But it's not stable. You can see it writhing, twisting, as if alive. Occasionally, bright flashes illuminate it from within, lightning born of fire and ash dot. Other people are gathering in the street now, their faces turned upward, in a mixture of awe and terror. Some are praying, others arguing about what to do. A few families are already loading carts, preparing to flee, while others seem paralyzed by the impossibility of what they're witnessing. An old woman named Livia, who lives 3 doors down, approaches you with tears streaming down her cheeks. "I've lived here 70 years, she says, her voice barely audible above the rumbling. "My grandmother told stories of the mountain's anger, but I thought they were just tales to frighten children." The ash column continues to grow, and you realize it's not just rising. It's beginning to spread outward, creating a vast, dark canopy over the bay. The temperature, which had been rising all morning, suddenly begins to drop as the sun disappears behind the volcanic cloud. You make a decision that will save your life, though you don't know it yet. Instead of fleeing immediately like many of your neighbors, you return to your home to gather supplies. Something deep in your survival instincts tells you that this is not a storm that will pass quickly. Inside, you collect water. In every container you can find, wrapping bread and dried meat in cloth, and gathering your warmest cloak. You tie a damp cloth around your face to help filter the ash that's beginning to seep through every crack and crevice. Through your window, you watch as families stream past, their carts loaded with possessions, children crying as parents hurry them along. But where can they go? The ash is falling everywhere now, and the roads out of the city are becoming clogged with people and debris. The light outside continues to dim, even though it's only mid-afternoon. The ash cloud has spread so wide that it's blocking the sun entirely, casting Pompeii into an eerie, orange-tinted twilight. Your oil lamps, which you've lit for visibility, flicker constantly as ash infiltrates the air inside your home. You can hear the mountain now, not just feel it. The rumbling has become a roar, punctuated by sharp cracks and booms that echo across the city. Each sound sends a shiver through the ground, and you can see dust falling from your ceiling with each tremor. The first stones begin to fall like deadly rain just as the afternoon light fades to an eerie twilight. They start small, pebbles of pumice, light and porous, bouncing off your roof tiles with soft tapping sounds. You hold out your hand and catch one, surprised by how warm it is, how light. It's grey-white and full of tiny holes, like frozen foam. When you squeeze it, it crumbles slightly, leaving your palm dusted with gritty powder. But they're getting larger. You retreat inside, as stones the size of walnuts begin pelting your shutters. The tapping becomes a steady drumming, then a thunderous hammering that makes conversation impossible. You press your hands to your ears, but the sound penetrates everything. Your bones, your skull, your very thoughts. The air inside your home is growing thick and hard to breathe. Each inhalation brings more of that fine ash into your lungs, making you cough in harsh, dry spasms. You wet cloth and hold it over your nose and mouth, but it only helps slightly. The ash seems to find every opening, every breath, coating your throat and making your eyes water. Through the gaps in your shutters, you can see your neighbors, trying to flee. Families loading carts with their most precious possessions. Children crying as parents hurry them along streets, now ankle-deep in pumice stones. But where can they go? The ash is falling everywhere, and the roads out of the city are clogged with people and debris. A family runs past your window, the father carrying a small child, while the mother struggles with a heavy sack. They're moving slowly, pampered by the accumulating stones and the thick air. You watch as the father stumbles, nearly dropping his child, then recovers and continues on. Their faces are covered with cloth, but you can see the fear in their eyes. The stones are larger now, some the size of your fist, crashing through roof tiles and shattering pottery in the street. You can hear screams, muffled by the ash and distance, as people are struck by the falling debris. The lucky ones make it to doorways or under stone arches. Others, you try not to think about the others. Your oil lamps flicker and go out one by one as the ash infiltrates everything. Darkness falls over Pompeii in the middle of the afternoon. A darkness so complete it's like being buried alive. You light a candle with trembling hands, and the small flame seems impossibly precious in this new world of suffocating grey. The sound of the falling stones is relentless now, a constant drumming that seems to come from everywhere. To once, your roof creaks ominously under the weight, and you can hear tiles cracking and sliding. Dust and small pieces of debris fall through the gaps, covering everything in your home with a fine layer of volcanic ash. You try to eat some. Bread you've saved, but it's already gritty with ash, and swallowing is difficult. The water in your jug tastes of sulfur and dust, but you drink it anyway, knowing you need to stay hydrated. Each sip is an effort, your throat raw and scratchy from breathing the ash-laden air. Outside, the sounds of the city are changing. The voices of people fleeing are becoming fewer and more distant. The rumble of cartwheels on stone is replaced by the soft whisper of accumulating ash. Occasionally, you hear a crash as a roof collapses under the weight of the pumice, followed by screams that are quickly muffled by the falling stones. You peer through a crack in your shutters and see that the street is no longer visible. Where once there were cobblestones, there's now a rolling landscape of grey pumice. knee-deep and still rising. A few people are still trying to move through it, but their progress is painfully slow, like walking through thick mud. Temperature has dropped significantly as the ash cloud blocks out all sunlight. What started as an unusually warm morning has become a cold, grey nightmare. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders and add more oil to your lamp, trying to conserve what little light you have. Hours pass, or maybe it's been days. Time becomes meaningless when the sun disappears and the world turns to ash and darkness. The drumming of falling stones continues, sometimes lighter, sometimes heavier, but never stopping. Your home creaks and groans, under the accumulating weight, and you begin to wonder if the roof will hold. You've been rationing your water, taking small sips when the thirst becomes unbearable. Each swallow is gritty, flavored with the dust that coats everything. Your tongue feels swollen, your throat raw from breathing the ash-laden air. The cloth over your face is now grey-black with the dust it's filtered from each precious breath. Through the continuing roar of falling stones, you occasionally hear other sounds. The crash of a building collapsing, the distant scream of someone caught in the open, the muffled sobs of families trapped like you in their homes. But these sounds are becoming rarer as the city slowly disappears beneath the volcanic debris. The sound of falling stones has diminished to an occasional thump, but it's been replaced by something worse. ... Silence. The terrible, complete silence of a dead city. No voices calling for help, no footsteps. In the street, no crying children, just the soft whisper of ash still falling, still accumulating, still burying everything you've ever known. You venture to your door and try to open it, but the pumice has piled up against it 3 feet deep or more. You push with all your strength, and it gives way slightly, letting in a cascade of grey stones and choking dust. The street outside is unrecognizable. ... A landscape of rolling grey dunes where familiar shops and homes once stood. The air that rushes in is thick with ash, making you cough violently. You quickly close the door again, but not before getting a glimpse of what Pompeii has become. The city you've known all your life is gone, buried under tons of volcanic debris, transformed into an alien landscape of grey hills and valleys. Your candle gutters in the ash-filled air, and you realize you're running out of light. More importantly, you're running out of air. The ash is seeping through every crack, every gap, slowly filling your home like water filling a sinking ship, but you're alive. Against all odds, while thousands of your neighbors fled into the deadly rain of stones or were trapped in collapsing buildings, you're still breathing. Your decision to wait, to prepare, to shelter in place has saved you from the fate that claimed so many others. You think of your friend Lucia, who lived near the harbor. Did she escape on one of the boats? You think of the baker Marcus, with his nervous prayers to Vulcan. Did the god he feared hear his pleas? You'll never know, because you're alone now in a city that no longer exists, buried under tons of volcanic debris. The sound of falling stones has diminished to an occasional thump. But it's been replaced by something worse. Silence. The terrible, complete silence of a dead city. No voices calling for help. No footsteps in the street. No crying children. Just the soft whisper of ash still falling, still accumulating, still burying everything you've ever known. You venture to your door and try to open it. But the pumice has piled up against it 3 feet deep or more. You push with all your strength, and it gives way slightly, letting in a cascade of grey stones and choking dust. The street outside is unrecognizable. A landscape of rolling grey dunes where familiar shops and homes once stood. The air that rushes in is thick with ash, making you cough violently. You quickly close the door again, but not before getting a glimpse of what Pompeii has become. The city you've known all your life is gone, buried under tons of volcanic debris, transformed into an alien landscape of grey hills and valleys. Your candle gutters in the ash-filled air, and you realize you're running out of light. More importantly, you're running out of air. The ash is seeping through every crack, every gap, slowly filling your home like water filling a sinking ship. But you're alive, against all odds, while thousands of your neighbors fled into the deadly rain of stones or were trapped in collapsing buildings. You're still breathing. Your decision to wait, to prepare, to shelter in place has saved you from the fate that claimed so many others. You think of your friend Lucia, who lived near the harbor. Did she escape on one of the boats? You think of the baker Marcus with his nervous prayers to Vulcan. Did the god he feared hear his plea? You'll never know, because you're alone now in a city that no longer exists, buried under tons of volcanic debris. The ash continues to fall, softer now, like grey snow in the candlelight. You watch it accumulate on your windowsill, on your table, on your hand. It's strangely beautiful in its way. This powder that was once the mountain itself, now settling gently over everything like a burial shroud. You close your eyes and listen to the silence. Somewhere beneath all this ash and stone lie the streets where you walked this morning, the forum where you bought bread, the baths where you sought comfort, all of it preserved, frozen in time, waiting for someone centuries in the future to uncover it and wonder what it was like to live through the day the mountain fell. And you're the last witness to that world, the last person to remember Pompeii as it was, not as it became. In your memory, the city still lives, still breathes, still echoes with the voices of people going about their daily lives, unaware that they were living in history's most famous disaster. The candle burns lower, and you pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders. Outside, the ash continues to fall, patient and relentless, burying the past and creating the future. You close your eyes and let the soft sound of settling dust carry you toward sleep, toward dreams of a city that once was, and toward the strange peace that comes with being the sole survivor of an impossible day. Days pass, or perhaps weeks. In this grey world without sun, time has lost all meaning. Your small supply of food is nearly gone. and the water tastes increasingly of ash and sulfur. But somehow you continue to survive in your buried home, breathing the thin air that seeps through cracks in the pumice, living on memories and the stubborn refusal to surrender. You've discovered that by carefully digging near your door, you can create small air pockets that provide slightly fresher air. It's exhausting work, and the ash keeps sliding back, but it gives you something to do besides remember. Your hands are raw from clawing at the volcanic debris, but the activity keeps you warm and gives you purpose. In the flickering light of your last few candles, you find yourself thinking about the morning this all began. How normal. It seemed at first, how the signs were there, but so subtle that most people missed them entirely. The warm water, the metallic taste, the silence of the animals, ... Nature had been trying to warn you, but humans, in their arrogance, had ignored the signals. You remember your childhood, playing in the streets that are now buried under tons of stone. The fountain where you used to splash on hot summer days, now entombed in ash. The bakery where Marcus would slip you extra bread when your mother wasn't looking. Now just another grey mound in the transformed landscape. The weight, being the sole witness to Pompeii's final day, presses down on you like the ash itself. You carry the last memories of thousands of people, their voices, their laughter, their fears. The woman who sold flowers in the forum, always singing softly to herself. The children who played dice games in the alleyways. The old senator who fed stray cats despite his wife's complaints. All of them are gone now. Their stories ended in fire and stone. But in your mind, they live on, frozen in that last normal morning before. The world changed forever. You become their keeper, their final chronicler, the living repository of a dead city's soul. Sometimes, in the absolute darkness, when your candles are extinguished, you hear things, not sounds from outside, ... There are no sounds, pry from outside anymore, but echoes from memory, so vivid they seem real. The clip-clop of horses' hooves on cobblestones, the call of vendors hawking their wares, the laughter of children playing in the streets. These phantom sounds comfort you and torment you in equal measure. They remind you of life, of the vibrant city that once existed above your buried refuge. But they also emphasize your isolation, your separation from the world of the living. You exist now in a space between life and death, between past and future, between memory and oblivion. Your body is weakening from the poor air and lack of proper food, but your mind remains sharp, perhaps sharpened by the extremity of your situation. You find yourself remembering details with startling clarity. ... The exact pattern of light and shadow on your bedroom wall on ordinary mornings. The specific scent of bread baking in Marcus's ovens. The sound of your neighbor's daughter practicing her lyre. These memories become more real to you than your current reality. In your mind, you walk through Pompeii streets as they were visiting the baths, shopping in the forum, greeting friends and neighbors. Sometimes you forget, for moments at a time, that it's all gone. Then you open, your eyes to the ash-filled darkness and remember that you're the only one left. You begin to understand that your survival isn't just about staying alive, ... It's about preserving something precious. You are the final guardian of Pompeii's memory, the last person who knew it as a living city rather than a historical curiosity. This knowledge gives you strength even as your body grows weaker. The ash has stopped falling, but the silence remains absolute. Your world has shrunk to the dimensions of your small home, now partially filled with volcanic debris that has seeped through every opening. You've learned to navigate in complete darkness, feeling your way along walls that are now coated with a fine layer of ashdot. Your last candle burned out days ago, leaving you in a blackness so complete it seems to have weight. But, strangely, you've grown accustomed to it. Your other senses have sharpened to compensate ... You can hear the tiny sounds of settling ash, feel the subtle changes in air pressure, even taste the different qualities of dust that drift through your buried refuge. Food is a distant memory now. You've eaten everything edible in your home, including things you never would have considered food before. Leather softened in water, bark scraped from wooden furniture, even the wax from your spent candles. Your body has adapted to this starvation diet, finding energy in places you didn't know existed. Water is more critical, and you've become ingenious at collecting it. Condensation forms on the cooler stone walls, and you've learned to guide these precious drops into containers using scraps of cloth. Sometimes moisture seeps through the ash from above, carrying with it the taste of rain that fell on the buried city. Each drop is a small miracle, a connection to the world above. In this timeless darkness, your mind has become your primary companion. You've reconstructed entire conversations from memory, replaying them with such detail that you can almost hear the other person's voice. You've mentally walked through every street in Pompeii, visiting every shop, every home, every temple, preserving them in the only way now possible. You've also begun to understand the mountain's fury in a way that perhaps no one else ever has, living beneath its aftermath, breathing its transformed breath. You've developed an intimate relationship with Vesuvius. You don't hate it, surprisingly. It was simply being what it was, a force of nature, neither good nor evil, just powerful beyond human comprehension. The mountain taught you something about time, about the fragility of human civilization. Pompeii seemed permanent to its inhabitants, as solid and enduring as the stones its built from. But in a single day, it became a memory, a ghost, a story waiting to be told. You are that story now, the living link between what was and what will be remembered. Sometimes you dream, though it's hard to distinguish dreams from waking thoughts in this endless darkness. In these dreams, you're not alone. The people of Pompeii are with you, going about their daily lives as if nothing has changed. Marcus is baking bread. Lucia is tending her garden. Children are playing in the streets. The city lives on in these visions, untouched by fire and ashdot. But then you wake, if waking is the right word. for returning to consciousness in this buried world, and the silence reminds you of the truth. You are alone with the weight, bend of an entire city's memory, carrying the stories of thousands of people who trusted that tomorrow would come as it always had. Your body is failing now. You can feel it, the lack of proper food, the poor air, the constant cold. They're taking their toll, but your mind remains clear, focused on its sacred task of remembering. You've become a living archive, a human library containing the final chapter of Pompeii's story. Asterisk, asterisk, in what you sense might be your final days. You've achieved a strange kind of peace. The fear that gripped you during the eruption has faded, replaced by a profound sense of purpose. You understand now that your survival wasn't random. You were meant to be here, to witness, to remember, to carry forward the essence of what was lost. Your breathing has become labored, each inhalation an effort in the thin, ash-laden air. But with each breath, you're also breathing in the transformed mountain, taking Vesuvius into your lungs, becoming part of the geological story that began with fire and will end with memory. You've stopped trying to dig your way out. The effort required is beyond your weakened body, and besides, where would you go? The world above is no longer the world you knew. Pompeii is gone, and with it the context that gave your life meaning. You belong here now, in this buried space between past and future, in the absolute darkness. You've learned to see with different eyes. You can visualize the city as it was with perfect clarity, walking through streets that exist now only in your memory. You visit the temple of Jupiter, where priests once offered sacrifices to ensure the city's prosperity. You stand in the amphitheater, hearing the ghostly echoes of crowds cheering gladiatorial contests. You remember the colors, the red of painted walls, the blue of the bay on clear mornings, the golden light that filtered through the columns of the Forum. These colors seem more vivid now than they ever did in life, as if your memory has enhanced them, made them more beautiful than reality ever was. The people you knew have become more than memories. They've become part of you. You carry their voices, their mannerisms, their dreams and fears. In a way, they're not truly dead as long as you remember them. You've become their afterlife, their continuation, their immortality. You think about the future, about people who might someday uncover this buried city. What will they make of it? Will they understand that these weren't just buildings and artifacts, but the remnants of living, breathing, hoping human beings? Will they be able to imagine the laughter that once echoed through these streets, the tears that were shed in these homes, the love that flourished in these gardens? Your body is growing cold now, but your mind burns bright with the accumulated memories of an entire city. You are the last flame of Pompeii, flickering but not yet extinguished. In your final moments of consciousness, you make a silent promise to all those who perished. Their stories would not be forgotten. Their lives will not be meaningless. Their city will live on in the only way it can now. In memory, in imagination, in the eternal human need to remember and to mourn. The ash settles around you like a gentle blanket, and you close your eyes one last time. But even in death you remain the eternal witness, the keeper of secrets, the last voice of a silenced city. Somewhere in the darkness, Pompeii still lives, still breathes, still dreams, preserved forever in the amber of memory and the patient stone of time, and perhaps centuries from now, when archaeologists finally uncover this buried world, they'll find more than just buildings and bones. They'll find the echo of your witness, the shadow of your memory, the ghost of your love for a city that died in fire but lives on in the human heart's refusal to let beauty and life be forgotten. The mountain sleeps now, its fury spent, but the story continues. In every grain of ash, in every buried street, in every preserved moment of ordinary life, Pompeii whispers its secrets to those who know how to listen. And you are the first and last to hear them all.